A lot of the ideas that I talk about are pretty old, like 27, 25 to 7 years old, because they go back to when I first started thinking about philosophy, and I was about 13. And I remember the very first question I asked that I consider set me on a course as a philosopher. Um, and the question was, what is reality? What is reality? I've been thinking these kinds of things. I mean, what ties these weird things I think about together? And I realized, well, I need to answer, what is reality? And I found that reality is an idea. Reality is an idea that we have about what our sense perceptions mean. Okay. Now we want to say, no, 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 yeah, that we have that idea, but the word reality is really applies to what they correspond to, what the senses mean, this external thing. That's reality. But if you don't know what a word means, and you want to know what it means, and the word's in use, you look at how it's used. And when somebody says, hey, look, that house is gray, is the house really gray? They're talking, something is gray. What is gray? Well, the model of the house in their mind is definitely gray. It applies to the model in their mind. But it may or may not apply to the real world. I mean, is that observer colorblind? It may or may not apply to the real world, but it absolutely applies to their model in the brain. If they say that house is ugly, in their model, it's ugly. Okay? It is ugly. It may or may not apply to the real world. And there's an example of something that may never apply to the real world. We consider that a personal opinion. But it's the same as if the color of the house or anything else about the house. Maybe the person's never visited the house and they're just telling you what they heard. And in their mind, they have a picture of the house as what they're saying. They're talking about reality. They will say the reality is that house is gray. And in reality, being the model in their mind, that's a true statement. But in reality, being this corresponding external world, no, it doesn't. So it always applies to their model and may or may not apply to this external physical world. So reality, when people talk about reality, they're talking about their idea of whatever is the source of the sense experiences. And there's a lot of times it's important to realize that, because if people pass a judgment on the external world and say, oh, for example, it's all crap, they can't be talking about this physical external world. They're always talking about their model of reality. And that's why the question is, when they say that, is not really, is the world really that way? Is the house really ugly? The question is, why do you think that? Tell me what you see that makes you think that. Because you give me a little bit of information like that I can check and look myself, then I will change my own model. Or I might not change it into what you say. I see some of the horrors of the world. It doesn't change my whole model into the world is therefore horrible.